Damian Lillard is coming back to the Portland Trailblazers. And no, you're not dreaming. This is real. This is happening. In a move that feels both surreal and strangely poetic, Dame is returning to the only franchise he'd ever known before that Milwaukee chapter, one that barely lasted 2 full seasons. He was waived and stretched by the Bucks after tearing his Achilles, and now he's back in Portland, back where it all started. But this isn't just a goodbye tour. He signed a real deal with a no-trade clause, and the ripple effect of this move could be one of the most compelling storylines in the league for years to come. When Milwaukee let Dame go, the assumption was simple. He's going to land with a contender. Miami was the obvious link. That's where he wanted to go when he first requested out of Portland. Then Boston emerged as a possibility. A team with a ready-made contender core and a potential backcourt fit with Tatum's return next season. But Portland, that felt like a long shot. Emotionally, yes. Family, comfort, identity. But strategically, nobody saw it. Yet here we are. And it didn't happen quietly either. He's not returning for a vet min just to mentor the young guys. He's on a significant deal. He got a no-trade clause. He's committing to this. And the Blazers, they're committing right back. This isn't a reunion for the sake of nostalgia. It's a strategic pivot with emotional roots. Portland was already building something, and now it makes sense. Here's the truth. Portland had already started turning the corner. No, they weren't making playoff noise last year, but they were quietly building something. Their defense down the stretch was among the best in the league. Was it a small sample size? Yes. Were some teams tanking late? Sure. But internally, Portland believed what they were seeing. They saw a young core starting to figure things out. Scoot Henderson was rough early, but improved late. Shaedon Sharpe looked like a future 20-point scorer when healthy. Deni Avdija became a defensive glue guy with offensive upside. Donovan Clingan gives them size and paint presence. They even added Drew Holiday, a proven winner, still elite defensively. This wasn't a tank job anymore. This was a quiet retool. And then, boom, Dame is back. Timeline locked in. Now you've got the core and the leader. A mix of youth, toughness, and experience. You've got the soul of the franchise back in the locker room. Suddenly, the Blazers are more than just a rebuilding team. They're a project worth watching. The Achilles injury. Let's be real. Let's address the obvious. Dame won't play this season. He's still recovering from a torn Achilles. And yes, that's a brutal injury, especially for a player in his mid-30s who relies on quickness and separation. But here's the thing. Portland doesn't need MVP Dame. What they need is Dame the shooter, Dame the closer, Dame the mentor, Dame the identity. Even 70 to 80% of Dame is a massive asset for a team filled with guys learning what it takes to win. We've seen stars come back from this injury and still contribute. Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, different builds, but still elite in the right system. Dame can be the same, even if his athletic ceiling isn't what it was. Think about what Portland pulled off. They traded Dame 2 years ago for a huge return. Young players, picks, and flexibility. Scoot Henderson was the pick Dame wanted them to trade for a vet. They said no. Then another team, Milwaukee, paid Dame the most expensive years of his contract. And now that deal is off the books for Portland, but Dame is back. They kept the assets, they added depth, they played the long game, and now they have everything, including the guy they let go. There is no modern NBA example like this. Not even LeBron to Cleveland comes close. LeBron was still in his prime. He came back to a younger, stacked team with Kyrie and Wiggins as a trade chip. Dame's return is more subtle. It's about roots, about restoration, and about rebuilding the right way. Can it work on the court? Look, this doesn't make Portland a contender overnight. They're not suddenly a threat to Denver, OKC, or even the Suns, but it gives them something they didn't have: structure and belief. If Scoot becomes the player he's supposed to be, if Sharpe stays healthy and grows into a dynamic scorer, if Clingan becomes that rim protecting big that most teams crave, if Deni continues his two-way rise, and if Dame returns to even 80% of himself, then this team has a legit foundation, one that can play fast, defend, and close games, one that finally has leadership on and off the court. You need stars to win in this league, but you also need stability. For the first time in a while, Portland finally has both. Scoot Henderson needs to take the lead. He doesn't have to be an all-star tomorrow, but he has to start controlling games, hitting shots, and cutting down turnovers. That's the bar now. Shaedon Sharpe can't be a highlight merchant. He needs 65 plus games. Consistency. Defensive improvement. That's how he becomes more than just a cool dunk guy. Deni Avdija is low-key critical. If he keeps improving as a shooter and ball mover, he's the connective tissue that makes this team flow. Clingan and Yang Hansen need to show they can defend, rebound, and play their role without overthinking. And most of all, Portland needs patience. Because next season isn't about ring. It's about showing growth. So when Dame returns, they're ready to push forward. League history hasn't seen this before. Let's just take a second to recognize the uniqueness of this situation. A franchise player is traded away for a full rebuild. The team that acquires him ends up cutting him after an injury. And the player, still hurt, goes back to the team that traded him on a new contract with the rebuild assets still intact. And it's all legal. Why don't we see this more often? Because NBA rules actively try to prevent it. Teams can't just offload contracts and re-sign players immediately. There are rules, timelines, and penalties to stop collusion. But Dame's Achilles injury, that changed everything. Milwaukee wanted a win-now roster. They couldn't afford to wait a full season, so they moved on. Portland stepped in, it wasn't planned, it wasn't manipulated, it just worked. And that's what makes it such a rare moment in the modern NBA. No, this doesn't shift the title landscape. Portland isn't a favorite. They're not jumping into the top 5 of the West just yet. But it reminds us of something important. Not everything in the NBA has to be transactional. Sometimes the best stories are emotional. A loyal star leaves, not by choice, but by necessity. The team rebuilds without him. And then, when the dust settles, he comes back. Not to save them, but to be part of what they're becoming. This is more than just basketball. This is identity. This is hope. Sometimes in sports, we get moments that go beyond the game, beyond the wins and the stats and the standing. Moments that hit a little deeper because they're about people, about loyalty, about legacy. Damian Lillard returning to Portland is that kind of moment because this isn't just a reunion. This is the ending, or maybe the new beginning, to one of the most emotionally complex superstar arcs in recent NBA history. A player who gave everything to a city, stuck around through rebuilds and playoff heartbreaks, stayed loyal when every other superstar was jumping ship, and then finally left when it became clear that the franchise needed to move forward. And now, he's back. Not as the same player. Not physically, not contractually, not even situationally. But he's back in a way that feels right, and that word matters. It's rare that things in sports feel right anymore. It's all transactions, trade machines, asset charts, tank jobs, super teams, 2-year windows, and then reset. Players rarely get to write their second act, and if they do, it's usually in another jersey, in a different market, chasing someone else's dream. But Dame, he gets to walk back into the city that made him, the city that stood by him. And this time, he gets to walk in with help. He doesn't have to be the one-man offense anymore. He doesn't have to carry 45 minutes of heliocentric ball every night. He can lead from the front and the back. He can mentor. He can shoot. He can be the culture setter, not just the superstar. And for Portland, this is so much more than sentiment. This is structure, direction, identity. This is a team that was already building something interesting and now gets to do it with its greatest ever player in the room. The fans get more than just nostalgia. They get a reason to believe again. They get to tell their kids stories that start with, I remember the first time Dame came back. I remember that night at Moda when he checked in. That matters. And in a league where movement is constant, where loyalty is often punished, where fan bases are left picking up the pieces of timelines that get shattered every offseason, Damian Lillard coming back to Portland is a reminder that sometimes the story can come full circle. Sometimes the ending is better than you could have scripted. Portland probably isn't winning a title next year. They might not even make the second round. But the next time Dame walks through that tunnel, the next time that intro video plays, the next time that logo 3 splashes in Moda Center, it won't just be a bucket. It'll be a moment, a memory, a legacy being stitched back together in real time. And whether you're a Blazers fan or not, you should feel that. Because that's why we watch this sport in the first place.